The card is here in my wallet. Try the ATM, Denise said. So Lauren drove to the Wells Fargo Bank on Main Street, parked on a winding street, went to the ATM, inserted her card, and checked her balance at $12.34. She called Denise from the bank lobby. She only had $12 left. The man on the other end of the line stopped and looked at Lauren twice. "This is impossible," Denise said. "She withdraws the money every month." "Well, she's not there now." Lauren's voice was faint. Maybe she moved. She paused for another moment. Then Denise said, "I'll call her." I was at my desk in the clinic, writing up a bill for a cat's teeth cleaning. I saw the caller ID, Denise. I added Denise's voice, answered the phone, and finished the recording. Column B was fixed on the first try. She'd been planning for months using my money, which initially wasn't even hers. Now time is ticking, 48 hours. If you've ever seen someone trying to get something they're not entitled to, you know that feeling. Like and subscribe, because what Denise did next was something I never expected. 48 hours. That's what the email said. Denise was sitting at her kitchen table. I think Pam had already applied for her credit card even though I wasn't there. Credit limit $3,000, balance $1,800, available balance $1,200, amount requested $2,400. She was half short. She called Kyle first. "Can you lend me $1,200? Kyle laughed. It wasn't a harsh laugh, but a genuine surprise. "I don't have that kind of money," she said. "Ask your mother." So she asked her mother. Lauren glanced at the living room wall, where a picture of her father still hung above the television. "I was saving it for an emergency," Denise said loudly. "This is an emergency. It's a holiday, Denise." But Lauren went to the bank anyway. She withdrew $600 from the account she'd opened for herself. The teller asked if she wanted a check or cash. Cash. She put it in an envelope and took it to Denise's house. Denise withdrew another $600 from her credit card. That was all she had left. I'd set the maximum price at $3,000. I sent the resort $1,200 through the payment gateway. But the $1,200 wasn't $2,400. It was still $1,200 short, and it was 9:30 p.m. She called me again. I was washing Jake. There was a rubber shark at the edge of the pool. The foam was up to his chin. My phone lit up on the table. "Dennis," I saw him yelling. I didn't answer. The call went to voicemail. 2 minutes later, I got a text. "I know you transferred your money. We need to talk." I read it. I hung up. I took the book Sharks off the shelf. I read 3 chapters by Jake. He fell asleep while reading the whale chapter. The following night, Wednesday, the headlights drew down the curtains in my living room at 8:40. The car door slammed shut. I knew it before I could knock. Denise was standing on the welcome mat in yoga pants and a wrinkled shirt, mascara smudged under one eye. She looked like she hadn't slept. She opened the door, but I didn't turn around. My body filled the frame. "What did you do with the money?" she asked, in the way someone asks when they already know the answer but want you to feel guilty. "My money?" I lowered my voice. "It's in my account. You didn't try to steal it." My mouth fell open in surprise as I slapped her. "Stealing? My mother is the authorized user. This isn't stealing." "Then why didn't you ask me?" Silence. The porch light flickered. A butterfly flew out of it twice. Denise said, "We need this money. The children depend on him." I said, "Your children are not my children. You made that clear." She shifted her weight to her other foot and looked at me thoughtfully as she entered the apartment. Then she tried to use the quiet tone of voice she uses when she wants something, but it didn't work. "I'm sorry for what I said. Can you help me?" "For my mother's sake?" I let the apology hang in the air like a bounced check. "You told me my daughter isn't part of the real family. That's the end of it between us." I stepped back, closed the door, and slammed it shut. I could hear her footsteps. I saw her standing on the carpet through the window for about 10 seconds. She kicked it aside, a rug Lily had picked out from Target with the word "hello" emblazoned on it in yellow letters. Then she walked to her car and drove off. It was 9:15 the next morning. While I was at the clinic, the office phone rang. The clinic line, not my cell phone. The number on the screen was my mother's landline. She knew I had to respond. We couldn't ignore the cries we heard in the vet's office. Someone's dog might be in an emergency. Teresa, couldn't you return the money to the family? I leaned back in my chair. Through the glass partition, I saw Dr. Calloway examining the cheek of a cat with an ear infection. The cat seemed calmer than I had expected. Mom, you took my ticket as yours. She told me my children wouldn't accept it. It was Denise's idea. I agreed. That's the problem, Mom. You're always going. I heard her breathing. I didn't expect it to be like this. But then she started to cry. I know Mom cries. There's the right sound, and there's the acting that includes the gasps at the right intervals. That was the scene. I waited. He didn't break the silence. He didn't apologize. He didn't offer a solution. This was strange to me. Old Teresa had given up by now. She would say, "Let me see what I can do." Then she would send me $500 and we would remain sad for a week. She said, "Your father will be very disappointed in you." The card I left. It was the bus, the one that was supposed to break me. My dad told me to stop when the pain started, I said. I stopped. The line went dead. I put the phone on the counter, finished the receipts, and fed the clinic cat its lunch. The usual food, the smell of chicken, 3:30 in the afternoon. That day, after work, I stopped at Kroger to buy milk, bread, and bananas. There was Teresa near the cereal section. Pam Whitfield was comparing 2 boxes of oatmeal. She looked up when the shopping cart bell rang. Teresa. She put the boxes down. I heard about the trip. I stopped the cart. Did Mom tell you? Lauren asked me to tell you. I said no. Pam folded her arms. It wasn't aggressive kindness, just gentle kindness. The kind where someone wants to be quiet when they're about to say the truth. I was at Madison's birthday party. I saw Denise take you to the kitchen. I saw your mother holding that card. Teresa, you don't owe anyone anything. I looked at the cereal boxes, the store brand, 2 for $5. I know, I said. Your father says the same thing. I spoke simply, without words, without affectation. Pam had known my father for 30 years. They had worked together on the church building committee. He had fixed her bathroom sink twice and hadn't charged her anything. She didn't have to explain what she meant. I nodded. Pam reached out and squeezed my hand. Quickly, firmly, like pulling a hand out of a well. Then she picked up the cheap oatmeal and put it in her basket. Have a wonderful summer, dear. That was all. No therapy sessions, no 12-step reconciliation plan. Only one woman in the store saw what happened, and she spoke up. I went home. The car sat in the driveway for a minute with the engine off. Then I got in and said to myself, cover the car tonight, go out tomorrow. It was 9 p.m. The children were asleep. The apartment was quiet, except for the sound of the refrigerator and the dripping kitchen faucet that I needed to fix. I loaded the car in 4 stages. I placed a cooler on the back seat floor. Turkey sandwiches wrapped in foil, juice boxes, wine bottles in resealable bags, cheese sticks for the trip, suitcases in the trunk, beach towels, large towels from the linen closet. Jake's shark goggles placed in a plastic bag on top of everything so he could see them first. I reconfirmed my reservation. Taipei Island Inn, Room 6, Ocean View, check-in at 3 p.m. The confirmation number was on my phone and written on a sticky note in my wallet because I don't trust technology in important situations. I set my alarm for 5 a.m. I texted Dr. Calloway. The appointment was on Friday. 3 points. Have the best time. You deserve it. I closed the front door, poured a glass of lemonade from the mug I'd made on Sunday, and sat on the porch. The street was quiet. Mr. Henderson's porch light was across the street, and a sprinkler system was installed somewhere, the kind of quiet that requires nothing of you. I missed 4 calls from Dennis and 2 from my mother. I saw the notifications and left them unanswered. I didn't listen to the voicemails or read the texts. Tomorrow I'll drive south with the windows open and my children singing along to the radio. None of these messages will matter to me. I opened my wallet. My father's letter was there, tucked behind my will. I didn't read it. It wasn't important. I knew what it said. I finished my lemonade and went to bed. That same day, at 2 p.m., 250 miles north. This episode was about Pam weeks later, on a play date with Lauren and Madison in August, when Lily told her everything. Denise's SUV pulled into the parking lot of the oceanfront Palmetto Suites after a 4-hour drive. Lauren sat in the front passenger seat, her knees aching from sitting so long. Madison and Tyler were in the back, their faces pressed against the windows, talking loudly about the pool. Denise walked into the hotel lobby wearing sunglasses on her head and carrying a wheeled backpack. The receptionist was a young woman wearing a blue polo shirt. She wrote Denise's name and rewrote it, then frowned. I showed her the remaining balance of $2,400. I had received a partial payment of $1,200 yesterday, but the system requires full payment upon check-in. You still owe $1,200. Denise took out her credit card. The amount was over the $3,000 limit. She laid the paper over the counter, as if she would only do so if she appeared confident. The clerk waited. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she refused. Denise glanced at the screen, as if her gaze could change the number. Lauren sat down in a chair in the hallway, her hands in her lap. "I lost money." She didn't address anyone in particular. Madison appeared beside Denise. "Mom, what's going on? Where's our room?" "Not now, Madison." Denise grabbed Lauren's arm and pulled her into the hallway, past the brochure and the fern. "Call Teresa," she said. "Now." Lauren pulled out her phone. Her hands were shaking, really shaking, not acting. She dialed my number. Tybee Island. We arrived around noon. Unit 6 was small and clean, smelling of salty sea air and lemon cleaner. 2 beds, a kitchenette with an electric hob and a small refrigerator, and a sliding door that opened onto a narrow balcony. Jake took off his shoes before getting out of the car. Lily was already wearing a starfish print swimsuit, her towel draped over her shoulders, and she stood by the door like a slightly eager lifeguard. We reached the beach at 1 o'clock. Lily ran towards the waves, her feet sinking into the foam, giggling like a child when the sea is new. Jake knelt down and started digging. He was 5 years old and had a plan for that hole. I sat on the blanket, the sun warming my hands, floated on the water, and walked into a place where there wasn't supposed to be sand. This is it, I thought. This is the trip. My phone rang at 2:15. I reached for my beach bag. "Mom." I looked at the screen. I saw Lily, waist deep in water, jumping in the waves. Jake stuck her tongue out and dove into the water. I pressed pause. The phone rang again at 2:16. Bye. 2:17. Bye. Jake looked up, sniffing the sand. "Mom, who's calling?" I put the phone at the bottom of my beach bag and turned off the screen. "No one's important right now. Let's go look for the dolphins." He dropped the shovel and ran into the water. I followed him. The phone kept ringing in the bag. The sea darkened. 22 calls in the next hour. I didn't answer any of them. I wasn't angry. I didn't say a word. I was standing in the Atlantic Ocean with my son, looking for dolphins, and that was far more important than anything happening in a parking lot 200 miles north. When I got back to the Palmetto Suites overlooking the ocean, I didn't answer 22 calls. I know this because my phone recorded them all, and Lauren explained the situation in detail in the foreword to complete the court record. Denise lost her temper. It wasn't suppressed anger, but a raging fury that ripped the place apart. She lashed out at the receptionist as if she were the one who had siphoned all his money from his bank account. She did it on purpose. She diverted the money as revenge. Her voice echoed throughout the space, from the marble floors to the high ceilings, past the delicate watercolor paintings depicting shell collectors on the beach. The secretary kept a neutral expression. "Ma'am, please keep your voice down." Other families in the hall turned to look. A man in a sweatshirt pulled his children toward him. A woman carrying a wheeled suitcase paused for a moment and looked up. Madison stood beside a potted fern and cried, not loudly, quietly and shyly, like a 10-year-old who understands her mother is making a fuss and can't do anything about it. Tyler tugged at Lauren's sleeve. "Grandma, I want to go. I wasn't even there. I was 200 miles south building a sandcastle, which we called Shark House." But when Pam was in that corridor telling me what Denise had yelled at me, how I was going to get my revenge, how she'd messed everything up, all I could think of was Denise's own voice at the Sunday dinner table, passing the phone across the table and smiling. She couldn't pay. The woman who had told me I had no money was standing in the resort lobby, screaming with exhaustion, unable to pay for the vacation she had been trying to deposit into my bank account. I tried calling Denise Kyle, but to no avail. I tried twice, but no one answered. Then the manager appeared, a tall man in a dark blue jacket. He said, "Please come outside." They all got out, all four of them. They drove through the automatic doors, through the parking lot, and back to the parking garage. There was no space. The $800 security deposit was gone. They were out of credit. The gas tank was half full. The Palmetto Suites parking garage was freshly paved and sweltering 95 degrees Fahrenheit. The heat rippled through the asphalt in waves. Lauren sat on a concrete bench near the handicapped parking space. She looked 10 years older than her years, 62. Her purse was on her lap, containing a debit card with $12 in bills. Her wallet, too, was empty, having run out of $600, and her phone still showed 22 missed calls to my number. "Who's going to pay this?" Her voice was calm, without any accusation or anger. I was tired. The voice of a woman who had driven 4 hours to pay a bill she'd promised was anything but muffled. Denise walked past the SUV. Teresa had to push. Lauren interrupted her. It was the first time I'd heard her do that in years. I asked her. She said no. "You said you'd never notice." Denise stopped walking. "Do you agree?" "Because you said you'd stop bringing the children to my house if I didn't." That was all there was to it. Honestly. It wasn't in court, or a family meeting, or even a therapist's office. It was the sound of other children playing in a pool on the other side of the fence at a resort in Hilton Head, South Carolina. Madison and Tyler were sitting in the back seat of an SUV with its doors open. Lauren had bought them some cookies and a Gatorade at the gas station as soon as they got in. Madison ate her portion slowly, but Tyler didn't. "I want to go home," Madison said. Tyler looked at Lauren through the open door and said, "I want Aunt Teresa." Denise turned around and said, "Don't call her by her name." Tyler took a step back and Lauren closed her eyes. No one moved for a minute. It had been 4 hours since they had returned to Georgia. Lauren told Pam that no one had spoken for the first hour. Not a single word. Denise was furious because the highway, the tires, and the air conditioning were all freezing cold. Angry people turned on the air conditioning, thinking it was someone else's fault. Madison was sitting behind Lauren, playing her phone game. Tyler was asleep with his head against the window. The stuffed dinosaur was tucked under his chin. Madison stopped playing at I-95, exit 109. She opened Instagram. She handed the phone to Lauren. Grandma, Lillian, and Jake were on the beach. "Look, the picture is simple. Lillian and Jake are on Tybee Island, Gathian by a long stretch of sand. Jake is wearing shark goggles mounted on his forehead. Lily smiled, her sandy arms gazing at the sun. I posted this picture an hour ago. The caption, "A day at the beach with two of my loves." Lauren looked at the screen. It was her grandchildren laughing on the beach, not her. She handed the phone back without a word. Tyler woke up 40 minutes later. He rubbed his eyes and looked out the window at the pine trees swaying on the horizon. "Mom, Lillian, and Jake are at the beach? Why don't we go with them?" The car stopped again. I remembered Denise's words. The words she'd said in Mom's kitchen on Madison's birthday. The words she'd said as she read the grocery list. "Your kids aren't coming. My kids don't want to come there." It was Tyler who'd asked why he couldn't go with Lillian and Jake now. Her daughter was asking the question that prompted her to speak. Lauren turned in her seat. "Denise, what have we done?" Denise gripped the steering wheel. "Don't start, Mom." Tybee Island, sunset. The sky turned peach, then copper, then a deep purple gray that made the sea look like steel. I sat on a beach blanket, my back against the low sand wall. Lily was lying on my lap, her hair still wet, sand covering her cheeks. Jake was about 6 meters away, still digging. The boy had been digging all day, different holes, for different purposes. He said this last one was a crab trap. No crabs fell in. I took out my phone. I'd missed 22 calls from my mother and 14 from Denise. 3 voicemails. I pressed the first one. Lauren's voice cut out and became hoarse. Teresa, the trip is going to be a disaster. We went there empty-handed. Denise was furious. The insurance money is gone. Please call me. Please. I listened to the entire message. 38 seconds. Then I put the phone back in my beach bag and turned it off. I didn't contact them again. I didn't want them to get hurt. I hadn't proven anything. I had nothing to say to atone for what they'd done, and I couldn't say anything that would ruin their plans. Some conversations shouldn't happen at a specific time, but when both parties are ready. I wasn't ready either. It hasn't arrived yet. Mom, I found a coin. Jake ran over to me, tossing it into the air like a prize. He opened his hand. A sand dollar. Broken. Split in 2, one half bigger than the other. Is it still good even broken? I took it from him. I ran my thumb along its rough edge. The best is always the best, my friend. He grinned and ran to the crab trap. I looked out at the ocean. I put Dad's note in my wallet. Take your kids to the beach. I did. In Georgia, 10 p.m. at Denise's house. Madison and Tyler were in bed, exhausted from a long day of driving back and forth. Denise sat at the kitchen table with a glass of wine she couldn't afford, looking at her phone. She called Kyle. He answered after the 4th ring. Your brilliant plan cost me $800 and a vacation, she said. Kyle was silent for a moment. My plan? You booked a resort you couldn't afford. You asked me to use her card. I suggested it, and you did it. There's a difference. There's no difference. Kyle, I didn't tell you to spend all your credit card money on seafood. Denise put down the wine glass. It was Teresa's fault. Kyle paused. A long silence. It meant someone was going to say something honest and didn't care if it was wrong. Was that it? He hung up. Denise sat alone in the kitchen. No resort, no vacation, no deposit. Her credit card had a 0 balance. She said she had to pay her mother $600 or pretend she didn't have it, and no one would accept that. She glanced at the refrigerator. Photos of Madison were attached with magnets. Photos of the 4 children, Madison, Tyler, Lily, and Jake. 2 years ago on Jekyll Island. All of them smiling. All together. She turned her face away from the photo and finished her glass of wine. We returned home on Sunday. My son, tired, happy. Jake told Dolphin about the dolphin on Monday morning. I stood by the kayak. He held out his hands to indicate the distance. He said he had reduced it from 10 feet to 10 inches. Dr. Calloway listened intently, as if she had heard the most important thing of the week. She didn't mind. Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Mom. I was sitting in my car in the clinic parking lot with the windows open, so I answered. Lauren said, "Can we talk? I want to apologize." The radio was off, so I put the key back in. "Can you talk, Mom? I'm listening." I shouldn't have let Denise decide. "What about the card? I didn't know you were going to ask all this." "But you know you're going to ask something." Silence. The crow landed on the trash can across the yard and flew away. "Mom, I love you, but my money isn't mine anymore. There's no joint account. There are no cards in your house. There's no emergency access. You want to see Lily and Jake, they're welcome on Sunday, but I don't support plans that don't include me." I heard her breathing. It was light. She wasn't crying. She was processing what was happening. She said, "Okay, calm down. I'm not happy. I'm not resisting. I'm listening. Maybe for the first time. Mom, I'm not angry." I finished what was in the bag. She let me sit down. She said I understood, though I don't think she did very well. But understanding isn't a switch you can turn on and off. It was slow, like water carving a hole in rock. We said our goodbyes, and then I went back inside. I fed the clinic cat and finished the monthly report. I picked up my children at 5:15 as usual. Denise hadn't called, not this week, not the week after. 2 whole weeks of silence, and that in itself is proof. Lauren brought it up on Wednesday. Denise said she'd never forgive me for ruining the holiday. I was folding laundry while I put the phone on speaker. Jake was arranging toy cars on the coffee table. I told him she had to forgive herself first. Lauren didn't respond to that. I went to the Hilton for 3 weeks and had a great time at the village center. Paper plates, folding tables, the smell of shredded pork and coleslaw, and countless casseroles. I walked in with Liliana and Jake, carrying a plate of potato salad. Denise was across the room, away from the dessert table. Our eyes met. She started eating first. I glanced at her plate, then I joined the food line. And that was that. No argument. No talking. Life isn't a courtroom. Sometimes you have to have a barbecue at opposite ends of the room. Madison ran towards me from Denise's table. "Auntie Teresa, can Lily play?" She was 10. Things hadn't gone as Denise had hoped. All her mother had told her about the real family. "Of course, dear. Any time." Madison smiled and took Lily's hand, then they disappeared into the playground. Denise looked across the room, didn't say a word, and I left before the cake was served. I stayed, ate potato salad, talked to Pam about the infusion at Dr. Calloway's clinic, then drove home, bathed Jake, and read Lily 2 chapters of Ordinary Tuesday, which is the best. If someone wants your bank card to keep you in the family, they were never family. They bought your money. And that's all I'll say. A message from a plumber who knows his daughter's worth. 22 missed calls, and there are still plenty of broken sand dollars left. If you've ever transferred money just for the sake of transferring it, or refused to let anyone think your generosity was for a subscription, share this message with someone who needs to hear it. Share your opinion about your story, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you in the next episode. The phone rang 22 times in 1 hour. I knew because my daughter was counting it. She thought it was a game. I was 300 miles from home, sitting on a blanket on a beach on Taipei Island, watching my daughter dig a hole in China with a plastic shovel. My mother called from a resort in Hilton Head. My sister was next to her, yelling at the receptionist who had refused to give them the room they hadn't paid for. But I didn't know that yet. All I knew was the ocean, the sand beneath my feet, and the fact that, for the first time in 4 years, I had chosen my children over my family's expectations. But that phone call and what followed were just the end of 2021. Let me tell you how we got here. Welcome to Calm Drama Stories. I'm Teresa, 33 years old, and I work as an accountant in a small town outside of Atlanta. This is the story of how I convinced my sister to let me and my kids go on a family vacation, and what happened when they tried to pay with lost money. If you've ever paid everything and received nothing back, share your experience in the comments. I worked at Dr. Calloway's veterinary clinic, across from the Chevron station on Highway 9. Accounting. $47,000 a year. Simple, not-so-scaring job. I processed invoices, balanced payroll, kept track of medication inventory, and ensured accurate accounts so Dr. Calloway could focus on the animals. I was competent. The numbers don't lie. Don't borrow money. Don't feel guilty on Thanksgiving. My apartment is 12 minutes from the clinic, 14 minutes from Lily's elementary school, and 20 minutes from Jake's kindergarten. When I started lighting Magnolia, Lily was 8 and Jake was 5. Their father passed away when Jake was 6, and it's best not to talk about it too much. He's not part of this story. I would wake up at 5:30 every day. I would prepare his lunches, peanut butter and honey for Lily, and cheese for Jack, because he would get very upset if he saw anything with seeds. I would drive to school, then to the clinic, pick him up from the hospital at 7:45, then wake up at 5:55 after the hospital, get home at 5:40, have dinner, go to the bathroom, read a book, then go to sleep, and so on. I kept a 14-figure budget. I collected discount coupons. I bought gas on Tuesdays because the Shell station had a 6-cent discount. I put $150 a month into a travel savings account and pretended it didn't exist. I was good at managing money. I should have been. But in my family, managing money wasn't so much a skill as it was a goal. People don't blame you for being poor. They blame you for being frugal. They blame you for having a savings account without saving. They blame you for saying no when you need to. My father understood this, and he was the only one who did. 4 years ago, my father was in Grady Memorial Hospital, connected to tubes in his arm and kidney. Robert Young, a plumber, had been crawling under houses for 40 years, checking the copper pipes. He looked like he was 62 or 80. His hands were as rough as the roof tiles. He built half the bathrooms in our neighborhood and never billed. I was 29, Denise was 34. We stood on opposite sides of the bed like two mismatched buckwheat grains. He looked at me, not her. "Teresa," he said, "I want you to look after my finances." He asked me for my money, my life insurance, my mother's bills, the house, everything. He had taken a brown envelope from under his pillow. The nurse had asked him to get it from the car. Inside were his life insurance policy, my mother's bank statement, and a handwritten list of monthly bills. "Turn on the light for your mother, that's all I ask." I took the envelope. My hands were shaking, but his were steady. Denise was looking out the window. She hadn't said a word in that room. She waited until we entered the elevator. Her face was ashen, like old chalk. She looked at the doors. Then she took out her phone and pressed it, and my phone rang in my pocket. I read it in the parking lot. "Your dad loves you more than anything. Enjoy your little promotion." Then I sat in my car for 20 minutes. I'd expected something like that. The surprise was that my dad didn't ask her, and we both knew why. Denise had written 3 bounce checks to the electricity company in 1 year. She borrowed $2,000 from her father's pension and never repaid it. He loved her, but he didn't trust her to manage her own finances. My father died 3 months later, on a Tuesday in October. The funeral home was flooded. His life insurance paid out $85,000. I sat at my kitchen table with a calculator and a notebook and did as he had instructed. Medical bills from the hospital, $31,000. Roof repairs to my mother's house that left the bathroom floor rotten, $8,000. Installing a new water heater with duct tape, good idea, $2,400. Balance left over, $23,600. I put $22,000 into a savings account in my mother's name. Emergency fund, untouched. The remaining money was to cover the funeral and reception costs, since Denise had promised to provide food, but hadn't. After that, I started transferring $300 a month from my checking account to my mother's, just like I did with the rent, except I was also paying her electricity, water, and grocery bills. The $1,400 Social Security payment was only made once the house was fully paid off, and her medication costs were still outstanding. Denise hadn't contributed anything. "I have my family," she said. Kyle had a house with a pool and a rented Lexus. While her family seemed burdened, Denise had an advantage. She had Madison and Tyler and her mother's 2 young grandchildren, all she could spend freely. "I don't bring the kids you invite over on weekends, Teresa." She said it like a weather report, like it was routine, like it was an established fact. My mom stopped inviting me over on weekends. I realized it when I asked Lily why Grandma only wanted to see her on Wednesdays. I didn't have a convincing answer. I adjusted the visiting schedule and kept sending $300. Every summer since I was 9, the young family went to the beach, to Jekyll Island in Georgia. The same beach, the same rented houses with covered verandas, and the sand stretching as far as the eye could see. Dad would fill up the cooler at 4 in the morning. Mom would bring enough sunscreen for a small army. Denise and I would lie on the front bench for the first hour, then sleep on opposite windowsills for the next 3. That was the only week of the year when no one argued about money. My dad paid for everything. When he died, that tradition had to end with him, but I couldn't give it up. Lily loved surfing. Jake was born in August, and his first surfing trip was when he was 10 months old. He ate sand and laughed about it, so I went ahead. I booked the rooms, I packed my groceries, I got the car ready and paid for it. Last summer, I stayed at Ocean Breeze Cottages in Jekyll for 4 nights in 2 rooms. The total cost was $2,200. I paid $1,800. Denise sent me $400 via Venmo 2 months late, after I'd requested it 3 times. My mother didn't pay me anything. I didn't complain. I told myself it was for the kids. That's what you say when you give charity to people who don't appreciate it. I had a travel savings account at my credit union. It automatically deposited $150 a month. By that spring, it had a balance of $2,600. I had set it aside from my checking account. A clean slate, untouched, ready for something. That was last summer. This summer, my sister had a different plan. 3 months before that summer, on a gray Thursday in March, Kyle Pratt pulled up in front of Dennis's house and dropped off his son. When Kyle turned 40, he drove a black Ford F-150 with a cracked taillight and worked selling commercial floor coverings. He and Dennis had broken up 2 years ago, enough time for them to exchange those hateful divorce letters. Madison got out of the truck, followed by Tyler, who dragged his backpack along the sidewalk. Kyle leaned back in the back of the truck and spoke sharply. Teresa didn't want to give me the $5,000, did she? He asked me for a loan last fall. He wanted to start a business supporting the installation of luxury vinyl flooring in new buildings. I said no. I told him that politely and clearly, and once. I'll never forget it. Denise folded her arms and said, "You're stubborn, I'm sorry." Always. Kyle looked back at the house. "Your mother's still listed on Teresa's bank account, isn't she? As an authorized user?" Denise didn't answer right away. "So what?" Kyle shrugged like a simple accountant. "Book the flight. Use that card. Teresa owes this family for all the years she's held her father's money like it's her own." Denise hesitated for 3 seconds. I know this because Kyle told someone later, and someone told Pam, and Pam told me. She only had 3 seconds of consciousness left. "We owe her," Denise said. Kyle smiled and got into the car. I was helping Lily with her multiplication tables that night, so I didn't know anything. I hadn't known for weeks, but the plan was already underway and my name was on the bill. It was Madison's 10th birthday, at my mother's house, in April. The cornflowers were in bloom, and Lauren had hung a paper banner on the front porch that read, "Happy Birthday, Madison," in glittery purple letters. I'd brought 24 cupcakes from the bakery on Elm Street, chocolate with vanilla cream, Madison's favorite since she was 6. Lily was carrying the box. Jake had a gift bag with watercolors inside. The party went well for the first hour. The children were in the backyard. Lauren was grilling sausages. Pam Whitfield, who had just returned from church, was sitting on the porch drinking iced tea and watching the children run around. Then Denise pulled me into the kitchen. She half closed the door, leaned back on the table, and crossed her arms as she decided what to do. "I want to tell you something about our summer trip." I waited. "We decided to go to the Hilton this year. Me, my mom, and the kids." I waited again. "Your children aren't coming. My children don't want to come here." Her words were loud, as if she were used to it. I looked through the door into the next living room. My mother was standing by the sofa, clutching my ATM card between her fingers. My card. The emergency card I'd given her 2 years ago for groceries or doctor's appointments. "Why did Mom take my card?" Lauren looked at Denise, then at me. Denise said she needed it for the interview. Pam Whitfield was in the living room and saw everything. She saw Denise's jaw clench. Lauren saw that card. I saw them both looking at it and doing the math. I nodded once and said, "I'll take it." Then I called my kids, grabbed the box of cookies, and left. The drive home took 14 minutes. Lily sat quietly behind me. Jake sang a cartoon song I didn't know the name of. 2 blocks from the apartment, Lily said, "Why did we leave so early?" I looked in the mirror. She was 8 years old with her father's brown eyes and my stubbornness. "Sometimes grown-ups need space, little one." "I've accepted it. Kids do that. They take the answers you give them and put them aside. You hope they won't bring it up later when they need more explanation." I paused, put it inside, and turned on the movie. Then I grabbed my phone, sat on my bed, and opened the bank app. A month ago, I'd noticed a $400 withdrawal from my checking account. I called my mom. She said she'd used the wrong card at the pharmacy. "I'll pay you back," I said. "Okay," she said, but I looked more closely. 3 more withdrawals in the past 2 months. $80 at the gas station, $120 at Target, $65 at a restaurant I'd never been to. It was 2 weeks before my birthday party. The next morning, I called the bank. I wanted to remove an authorized user. The clerk on the phone told me I needed both parties to be present, or that I needed to submit a notarized written request. It would take 7 to 10 business days. I didn't have the patience for that. So, the next morning, I drove to another credit union across from the tire shop in Peachtree. I opened a new checking account and a new savings account and transferred all my money, $2,600 from my savings account and $1,400 from my checking account. The old account only had $12 left, plus my mom's debit card. I didn't tell anyone. Here's what I learned about money and family. When someone takes your bank card and pretends to own it, they're not keeping it safe, they're keeping it close. If you have to transfer money, hit the like button, because this story hadn't even begun yet. 2 weeks later, it was Sunday dinner at my mom's. Fried chicken, canned green beans, and bread rolls. Denise laughs was in a bad mood. She'd found out what she wanted and what everyone wanted to know. She pulled out her phone before she'd even finished washing the dishes. Look at this. She turned the screen toward my mother. I went to the Hilton. The resort, with its white terraces, blue pool, and palm trees, looked almost too perfect. 4 nights, oceanfront, including the kids' club, for a total of $3,200. She flipped through the photos like she was selling them. There was a seafood buffet and a dolphin-watching tour on the second night. My mother smiled. It looks lovely, dear. Denise placed the phone on the table and looked at me. Her expression was a mixture of pity and satisfaction, like a cat watching a bird from a window. She couldn't stand it anyway. She laughed. A short, sharp breath entered her nostrils. Jake sat down next to me. His fork was in his mashed potatoes. He looked at me. Mom, are we going to the beach too? Silence fell over the table. Lily looked at her plate. Mom looked at her hands. Denise drank her tea as if nothing had happened. We'll have our own adventure, my friend, I said, giving him a pat on the shoulder. He went back to his potatoes. I didn't answer Denise. I didn't give her the excuse she wanted. I washed and dried the dishes, then arranged them in the cupboard as my mother wanted, the larger ones at the bottom and the smaller ones at the top. After that, I took my children home. At the red light on Sycamore Avenue, I opened my phone and typed "family vacation to Savannah Beach" into the search bar. It was 11:30 p.m. Lily and Jake are asleep in their room. I'm sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop and an hour-old iced coffee. Tybee Island is 20 minutes east of Savannah. I've never been there, but the pictures suggest it's the kind of place my dad might choose. It's not fancy. It doesn't try to impress anyone, just sand, water, and a deck to sit on. The Taipei Island Inn had a room available during the last week of June. The price per night was $89. The view from Taipei, where you could see the fresh blue paint between 2 other buildings, was more than enough. The room cost $356 for 4 nights. I took out my notebook and sorted through the numbers as I tallied everything. Room price, $356. Fuel for a round trip, about 240 miles each way, was $200. Food for 3 or 4 days, with most meals cooked in the kitchen, was $300. Activities, kayak rentals, ice cream, and maybe a dolphin tour if Jake kindly asked, were $150. The total was $1,006. My new account had $2,600 in credit. I booked the trip. The confirmation email arrived 12 seconds later. I took a screenshot and put it in a folder called Summer on my desktop. I took a sticky note and wrote "Beach" on it. I put it on the fridge. No date, no place, no details. I knew how information spread in my family. Lily found the note the next morning while I was making cereal. "Beach? Are we going?" I smiled. A real smile for the first time in weeks. Wow, I knew all the details of Dennis's plan after things had gone wrong. People talk. Kyle talked to a friend at the gym. Her friend's wife worked with Pam at the church office. Pam told her that 2 months later she was sitting on her porch with a glass of lemonade and that she had nothing to lie about. Here's what happened behind the scenes. Denise booked the Hilton Head Resort in early April, the Palmetto Suite with an ocean view. 2 adjoining rooms. The total cost was $3,200. She paid $800 from her credit card as a down payment. The remaining $2,400 was due 3 days before the move-in. She hadn't intended to pay it herself. She told my mother on the phone that Teresa's card would cover the rest. She'd been drowning in debt for years because she couldn't do what she wanted. Lauren paused. I think she was silent for a moment, as she always does. Her lips were pursed. She was staring at the floor. She wanted to protest, but didn't want to argue. Are you sure this is okay? She asked. Denise's voice was calm. I left the card with you. That's enough permission. It wasn't permission. Leaving an emergency card for your elderly mother in case she needed money for gas isn't a blank check for a vacation. But Denise had already made up her mind about what the ticket meant. My mom decided not to argue. Kyle texted Denise that night. Smart move. She didn't know anything until it was over. Denise replied with a thumbs-up emoji. $2,400. 3 days before the check-in date. The money had been charged to a debit card linked to an account with a $12 balance. They didn't know yet, but I did. May was a busy month at the clinic. Allergy season meant every dog in the country had an itchy nose, and Dr. Calloway's schedule was full until June. I liked the busyness. It meant changing hours, and it also meant I didn't have to check my phone. Dr. Calloway was leaning against the doorframe, reviewing flea medication receipts. She was 53, with silver hair and the steady energy of someone who had spent 30 years persuading people to let their pets outside. You seem calm these days, she said. I looked up from the table. I'm looking forward to summer. She nodded and went back to the second part of the test. Calm. That was the right word. I felt like I'd forgotten I'd put down my backpack, which I'd been carrying for so long. I went to the school building at 5:15. Lily went in first. Jake followed, talking about the caterpillar he'd found in the playground. Lily was 3 blocks from home, then she fell silent. That's when I knew something was wrong. Lily fell silent, like a lake before a storm. My cousin Madison told us we couldn't go on the trip because we're not the real family, I said. I pulled over to the sign on Oak Street and slammed on the brakes for a long time. Who told Madison? Lily asked, swaying, clutching the strap of her backpack. Aunt Denise, I replied. I gripped the steering wheel. 3 seconds. They pressed the turn signal and started counting. Lily, you're my family, the only family I know, and we're going to start our own journey. Jake poked his head out of the back seat. With the dolphins. I looked at him in the mirror. Maybe with the dolphins. That's what Denise told her about my son. Well, there was no going back. That night, after a bedtime story, brushing my teeth, and Jake asking for water twice, I sat on the couch and opened the bank app. On the recurring payments screen, I saw an automatic transfer to my mom's account. The first $300 a month for 4 years. The amount was about $14,400. I turned on my mom's lights, filled her prescriptions, and stocked her grocery store while Denise drove her rented Lexus, telling my daughter she wasn't the real family. I pressed the cancel button. A pop-up asked if I was sure. I pressed confirm. My hands were steady. My mom was receiving $1,400 a month in Social Security. She had the $22,000 she'd saved from my dad's insurance. She was okay. She wasn't as comfortable as she'd been carrying my $300 purse, but she was okay. Denise lives 10 minutes away. Denise was able to buy groceries for the first time. I wrote a short email. Mom, I've sorted out my finances. The monthly transfer won't continue. Love you. Sent at 9:12 a.m. Lauren called at 9:14. What am I doing? Her voice was a mixture of confusion and accusation. You have savings, Mom. Denise lives 10 minutes away. Denise has her own expenses. And so do I. Silence. Silence filled the line like water fills a void. I can't believe you're doing this to me. I'm not doing anything to you, Mom. I won't do that for you anymore. I hung up. 20 minutes later, Denise texted me. What did you do? My mom's crying. I read the message. I put the phone on the table and turned off the screen. I washed the dishes, folded a stack of towels, went to bed, and slept the soundest I'd slept in months. A week before the trip, I took my summer clothes out of the entryway closet. Her shorts didn't fit Lily anymore last year. Jake's swimsuit still fits, but not quite. On the top shelf, behind a box of winter hats and a plastic box full of jewelry, I found a shoebox. Brown, dusty. It had a red wing logo, my dad's shoe logo. Inside, a guild card, a faded photo of him and his mother on Jekyll Island, 1988. A receipt for copper pots and a white envelope. My name was handwritten. Big letters, all of them, like plumbers write on work orders. I'd forgotten about it. He'd given it to me at the hospital, hidden in a brown envelope with my insurance papers. I'd been too tired to open it then. I'd been very busy after that. I'd been so tired in the interim. I sat on the floor of the closet with my knees up and tore off the flap, a notebook, provided by the university. Handwriting fills half the page. Teresa, you are true to your word. Don't let anyone take advantage of your kindness. When the day comes that helping them hurts you, stop. You have kept the light on for too long. Take your children to the beach. Dad. 7 sentences. No lessons, no guilt. Just a plumber who knows his daughters and loves them differently because they're different. I folded the letter. I put it in my bag, behind my driver's license. The place I always feel when I need a ticket. The closet smells of dust and old leather. I sat there for a while, not screaming, just breathing. Then I got up and started packing. Tuesday night at Walmart, Jake in the shopping cart. Lily was walking beside me. She was big enough for the cart, but not too big to ride on the edge if she thought I was looking for her. Swimsuits. I had a budget, $40. Jake immediately found shark-proof goggles. Gray sunglasses with a tooth pattern around the lenses. $5.97. Final price. Lily took a while, then brought me pink sunglasses with starfish on the straps. $14. I checked the stitching, and it was sturdy. In addition, I bought a pair of flip-flops, a bottle of sunscreen, and a mesh beach bag on sale. Total $34.97, $5.03 less than my budget. When I got home, I packed everything into a suitcase and put it at the back of the closet behind the winter coats. It wasn't completely hidden, but it wasn't obvious either. My family had a way of sneaking into the house without me noticing. My mother was carrying a pot. Denise was eager, and I didn't need to be asked questions I wasn't prepared to answer. As I closed the suitcase, I heard Denise's voice in my head, as clear as a phone call. Your children aren't coming. My children don't want to come here. I left him standing in the closet. Let the words stand. Not a statement, just a sentence spoken by someone who confuses cruelty with control. I heard Lily laughing from the bathroom. She found the shark goggles in Jake's bag and put them on, revealing her face in the mirror. Between anger and laughter, Jake tried to respond to them. I thought my kids were coming, not what you thought. A week before the move, the family text group was still active. Me, Denise, and my mom. Denise hadn't bothered to delete me, which was either laziness or aggression. My phone rang during lunch at the clinic. Denise sent a photo of the pool lit up at night, its water shimmering a turquoise like something out of a movie. Then another photo, the ocean view from the balcony. Then a screenshot of a seafood restaurant with napkins and prices starting at $28 for dessert. Then a message. Mom, I also booked a dinner cruise. $480. Same card to pay, the same card, my old card. I read it twice to make sure I understood. Then I opened the bank app and looked at the old bill, $12.34, the same amount that had been there since March. Denise was about to pay $480 for dinner out from an account that didn't even have enough to fill a gas tank. I closed the app, bit into my sandwich, and ate the turkey with corn, just like I did on Tuesday. I didn't reply to the group message, I didn't reply to the pictures, and I didn't send any warnings. Some people learn from the poster. At 2:00, Dr. Calloway walked past my office on her way to the operating room, her golden retriever having swallowed a sock. She paused. You're smiling as you look at your phone. Do you have good news? I looked up. Something like that. She raised her eyebrows and continued on her way. I put my phone in the drawer and went back to the payroll. Column B wasn't balanced. I figured out the mistake in 6 minutes. Numbers I could fix. I couldn't do it for the family. Kyle picked up the kids Friday evening. Madison ran to the car before it came to a complete stop. "Dad, we're going to the Hilton." She jumped inside, a 10-year-old girl and her mother's voice. Kyle lifted her into the back of the pickup truck for fun, then set her down. "Your mom knew everything." Tyler followed quietly, clutching a stuffed dinosaur that was probably too big for him, but he didn't give up. Both boys were in their rooms, getting warm and packing their bags. Kyle leaned against the porch. Denise stood in the doorway, her hands clasped. "Are you sure Teresa's card is enough?" Kyle asked. Denise didn't look up. "She earns $150 a month as an hourly worker, at least $2,000 now." Kyle did the math, his lips moving slightly. "Does your mother have the card?" Denise nodded. "Teresa told her to keep it," Kyle said with a smile that suggested intelligence and theft were one and the same. "So, it's already been paid for." The children returned with their bags. Kyle loaded them into the truck and drove off. Denise stood by the door until the rear brake lights went out, then she got in. Alone. I stumbled upon this episode months later from someone who overheard Kyle talking at the barbecue. But one thing reminds me. Denise sat at the kitchen table after Kyle left and pulled out her phone. My contact's picture. Lily and I were laughing on Jekyll Island 2 years ago. Our knees were covered in sand. Lily's front teeth are missing. Denise's thumb hovers over the call button. 5 seconds, then she hangs up. She could have called, asked, explained, but she didn't. 3 days before we met. Tuesday, I was at work, but I can tell you exactly how. Because Lauren told Pam all the details, and Pam has a memory that doesn't miss a word. Oceanfront Palmetto Suites charged the remaining balance at 10 a.m. $2,400 was charged to the registered debit card. The transaction was declined due to insufficient funds. The resort automatically sent an email to the registered email address, Dennis's Gmail. Subject: Payment declined. Action required. Message: Text: Your $2,400 transaction ending in 7741 was declined. Please provide an alternative payment method within 48 hours, or your reservation will be canceled. Please note that the $800 security deposit is non-refundable. Denise called her mother at 10:16. Teresa's card was declined. Lauren sounded confused, as if something didn't match the text message she'd received.